up, y'all? Welcome back to the ZayMoolaSportsPodcast. I'm your old star Zay, and the New York Giants finally got their man as John Harbaugh has agreed to become their new head coach. And this is exactly what they needed because the Giants are one of the most historic franchises in NFL history. They've won 4 championships. They've had Hall of Fame players like Michael Strahan, Lawrence Taylor, Harry Carson, and Eli Manning. And they've always been viewed as being one of the better franchises in the NFL. And it's not like they haven't had success in, say, 30 or 40 years, as they did win Super Bowls in 2007 and 2011. And so they've had some somewhat recent success. But since the conclusion of the Tom Coughlin era, which was in 2015, they have greatly struggled as they've had 4 head coaches, Ben McAdoo, Pat Shurmur, Joe Judge, and Brian Daboll. They've only been to the playoffs twice, which was in 2016 and 2022. And what was once a historic franchise, y'all, has become one of the worst franchises in the NFL. I mean, this has been a steep decline for the New York Giants. We know, y'all, they've always been about 2 things, 2 S words: success and stability. As during the 80s and early 90s, y'all, they had great success and stability under Bill Parcells, and then they carried it over into the 2000s and 2010s as they had great success and stability under Tom Coughlin, y'all. And you just think a franchise like the Giants would always be, elite, would always be playing great football, y'all, would always be in championship contention. But I feel like, y'all, these past 10 years, they have been chasing the wrong coach, because when they hired Ben McAdoo, they thought he was going to be, this young, fun, energetic offensive coach. Remember, y'all, they forced Tom Coughlin to resign so they could hire Ben McAdoo. And in hindsight, that was a very bad decision, y'all. They did have success, Ben McAdoo's first season, which was in 2016. As I mentioned, they made it to the playoffs, y'all. But after that, it was absolutely horrible. And then they ended up hiring Pat Shurmur, y'all. And they thought he was going to be, this young, fun, innovative offensive mind, y'all. The Giants had some of the worst offenses you probably will ever see in your life. And then after him, they made a very questionable hire by hiring Joe Judge, y'all, who had only been a special teams coordinator. I don't know why in the world they ever thought that was going to work out, y'all. We know that ended up very poorly, ended up going very horribly. And then, y'all, they got with Brian Daboll, and kind of similar to Pat Shurmur and Ben McAdoo, he was this young, innovative offensive mind, y'all. He was supposed to, transform this offense. And like Ben McAdoo, his first season, they made it to the playoffs, was kind of fluky, y'all. I mean, let's be honest. Even though the Giants made it to the playoffs in 2022, they were not one of the best teams in the NFL, right? They won 9 games. They ended up, going to the playoffs. First round, they beat the Minnesota Vikings. Then they got blown out in the divisional round by the Philadelphia Eagles, y'all. But I think a lot of Giants fans, because that was the first time they'd been in the playoffs since 2016, they were very excited about what the future was going to hold, y'all. But then the next couple of years, they end up significantly regressing. Didn't even get close to making the playoffs. And then this season, they end up firing Brian Daboll, y'all. And so they need to, go back to their lures, y'all, which was success and stability. And we know, y'all, those are 2 things that John Harbaugh has had in his career. He's had a lot of success. He's had a lot of stability as he was the coach of the Ravens for 18 seasons, y'all. He won the Super Bowl. He won 180 games. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time. And I know some people will say, well, he underachieved at the latter part of his Ravens tenure, y'all. And yeah, you would say that's true because, the last couple of years, you can make a case that the Ravens have had the most talented roster. And, last year, they went to the playoffs, ended up losing the divisional round to the Buffalo Bills, y'all. And then this season, they didn't even make the playoffs. But even with that being said, y'all, John Harbaugh is still a great coach, right? We should not hold that against him because that was not all just his fault. We know, especially this season, they dealt with a lot of injuries, right? And who knows, maybe if they didn't have those injuries, they would be in the playoffs right now as we currently speak. But I don't think you can hold that against him, y'all. John Harbaugh is still an elite coach. And again, this is exactly what the New York Giants needed, y'all. They needed a head coach that has proven success, that has stability, y'all, that can, really change the culture of this team and of this franchise, because of the 4 head coaches, y'all, that they've had, since Tom Coughlin, none of them created a culture. None of them were able to establish an identity, and you have to be able to do it. If you're going to be a great coach in the NFL, those are the 2 things you got to be able to do, y'all. You got to be able to establish a culture, establish an identity. Those coaches were not able to do that. John Harbaugh, absolutely, day one, y'all, will come in here, establish a culture, establish an identity of how this franchise is going to be moving forward. Now, they did pay a hefty price to get him, right? It's a 5-year, $100 million contract, y'all. But again, he was the best coach on the market market, we knew, hey, to be the boss, y'all, or to, you got to pay the cost. Like, to be the boss, you have to pay the cost. They wanted him. They knew they were going to pay a lot to get him. He's probably going to have some roster control, which means, y'all, Joe Schoen is probably not going to have as much control as he's had the previous 3 years, which might be good because I think a lot of Giants fans will tell you that they don't necessarily agree with all the decisions that Joe Schoen has made, y'all. But I think when you look at this roster, though, this team is ready to compete, man. This is a very talented roster. You have a young franchise quarterback in Jackson Dart. You got a young elite receiver, Malik Neighbors. You got one of the best left tackles in the league in Andrew Thomas. You got a really good number 2 wide receiver in Wan'Dale Robinson. You got a nice young running back in Cam Scottaboo, y'all. And then defensively, man, you got Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Darius Alexander, Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter, Javon Holland, Drew Phillips, Cordell Flott, y'all. This is a very talented team. Now, yes, they do need to, improve their offensive and defensive line, y'all. But I think now that they have John Harbaugh, they can compete right away. Because, again, this is a really good team, y'all. And that's all they need. And I'm not saying, the Giants are automatically going to become championship contenders because they have John Harbaugh now. But they're going to be a much better team, y'all. They're going to be competing for the playoffs next season. I think Giants fans will be really happy about that, y'all. Because, again, they have not had a lot of success the last 10 years. And even the 2 times that they did make the playoffs, y'all, again, in 2016 and 2022, they knew that was not sustainable because they did not trust the coaches that they had, y'all, which was Ben McAdoo and Brian Daboll. They absolutely trust John Harbaugh. And this is why, y'all, this fan base is excited. And this is why the Giants organization did so much to bring him, y'all. I mean, they literally flew their private jet to Baltimore to pick him up. Right, he had dinner with Chris Moore and Joe Schoen. Okay, so they did everything they could, y'all, to convince him. And then he also spoke to Eli Manning and their former coach, Brian Daboll, right? Even Brian Daboll was telling him how great of a job the Giants are, y'all. And so they did everything they could. They pulled out the red carpet to successfully get him, y'all, to become their next head coach. And he agreed to it. I think this is a great fit, y'all. Again, he's one of the best coaches in NFL history. The Giants are one of the most historic franchises in NFL history, y'all. And they just need somebody that can energize this fan base yet again, y'all. That can really just instill that confidence and hope into this fan base that they have not had since Tom Coughlin. Okay, and now they have it again, y'all, and John Harbaugh. So I love this for them. All my Tennessee Titans fans out there, I try to tell y'all, we never had a chance of getting him. I know we had scheduled a meeting with him, y'all, but you can just put 2 and 2 together. He literally went to the Giants facility yesterday, okay? With the Titans, we were going to be going to him. So that was already shady right there, right? He was willing to go to the Giants facility, but he was not willing to come to Nashville and meet with us at our facility. So that should have already told us right there he was not very interested in the Titans, y'all. But again, love this fit for the Giants. Love this fit for John Harbaugh, y'all. And the New York Giants are back once again, man, and watch it, y'all, because they're going to be contenders for years to come under John Harbaugh. So there you have it. This is my thoughts about the New York Giants hiring John Harbaugh, y'all. Remember, laughs good message of what? Make sure you get your daily dose. Y'all know I'm in it, man. I love y'all. God bless. Peace.